Hey guys, I'm Jax, and I just saw the film Twisters. It's a legacy sequel to the film Twister from the 90s. So obviously, it's a film about tornadoes. Well, now that I've avoided that totally real and definitely not fabricated tornado, it's time to talk about the film Twisters. Also, fun fact, and fun fact that I definitely knew before this film, Twister and tornado, the same thing. I definitely didn't think this was some kind of turtle-tortoise situation. So, Twisters, a legacy sequel to the 90s blockbuster disaster film Twister. It's pretty much the same film. It's the most legacy sequel a legacy sequel will ever legacy sequel. This film may as well be called Twister: The Storm Awakens. It's just The Force Awakens, but for the Twister franchise. It's just the same film. Sure, there are a couple of elements that they've kind of moved the position of when they happen. Every single moment you remember from the original film happens in this film. Except, and this is honestly the craziest thing in the world, except the cow bit. The cow bit! The iconic, probably in the trailers, cow bit. It doesn't happen, and I don't understand why not, because literally every single other moment happens. I just don't know why they stopped there. But the fact this is the most legacy sequel that's ever legacy sequeled, except for all the other legacy sequels, is that a bad thing? Not really. The film is pretty damn fun. It's pretty entertaining. It does what it needs to do with a big blockbuster disaster film. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if it has the same charm as the original, just because watching that film now with like a 27 or 28 year gap that we have, watching the visual effects and how they kind of implemented practical effects and practical rain and sets and disaster stuff to the visual effects of the time, is really interesting, and it's got this kind of charmy, cheesy kind of vibe to it that you just can't get nowadays, because it's just kind of like, how did they make that happen? Whereas now you see a scene and you're like, well, that is incredible CGI / visual effects. It's incredible, and truly some of the stuff in this film is sensational, it's incredible, it's awe-inspiring. But I'm just like not as impressed, because I'm like, yeah, well, I don't know, a computer can kind of do anything now. Like if you give the people who have the creative skills with a computer the right amount of time, they can kind of do anything now, and it just doesn't really impress me in the same way, where I just don't know how they did what they did in 96 to make the original film Twister. But that being said, a lot of the weird dated kind of elements of the plot and the romance of that era is completely abandoned, and they don't repeat any of those things for a kind of a more modern film, which I think is for the film's benefit. A lot of the kind of interpersonal relationships aren't like sensational, and they're nothing that's going to blow your mind, but I think they kind of work a little bit better. I think the leads are more charming and sexy and charismatic, and I'm not trying to throw shade to anybody in the original film, but this film has Glen Powell. Need I say more? Some people thought this was going to be the year of the monkey because of the Monkey Man, Godzilla vs. Kong, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And some people thought this was going to be the year of sand, Dune 2, Furiosa. But no. All of those people are wrong. This is the year of Glen Powell. Anyone but you, Hitman, Twisters. Glen Powell has arrived. And he's the most charming, sexy man that's ever lived. He's so good. I have loved this man for so long. I remember watching Scream Queens season 1, and I'm like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? That guy's got it. That guy was Glen Powell. And so in this film, like every character in this film, he is a tornado chaser. He's like, I chase tornadoes. That's what I do. And he calls himself the Tornado Wrangler. He's a country guy, he wears a cowboy hat. Glen Powell's charisma and charm carries the whole film. Everybody else in this film is pretty great, but he has just got something. He's got that magical Hollywood something where you're just like, yeah. So the plot of Twisters is essentially the same as the plot of Twister, but hey, if you haven't seen Twister from the 90s, the plot is essentially there's a bunch of characters and they are tornado chasers. They chase tornadoes. The film is essentially a bunch of people in a bunch of different kind of vehicles driving after tornadoes and trying to capture kind of data in the tornado to save people from tornadoes, to kind of give them some kind of scientific data so they know how to stop tornadoes, or they know how to kind of read when tornadoes are going to hit. And in this film, there's a little extra wrinkle, a little classic sequel wrinkle to what they try and do to these tornadoes, how they try and fight back against the tornadoes. I won't spoil that here, but it's a lot of fun. It's exactly as dumb and over the top and silly as you'd possibly expect and want from a film like this. It's all a lot of fun. But essentially the film is a bunch of people in different vehicles driving towards tornadoes, and then they get to the tornado, and then they go, oh my god, that's a really big tornado. Sometimes it's really big, 2 tornadoes. Imagine Twisters, but with an S. It's like James Cameron. He's like, alien, S, $sign. The director of this was like, Twister, puts an S, $sign. And then everyone looked at him and went, will it actually make us money? And he's like, probably not, but I've written the $sign, so make the film. And they're like, yeah, I mean, And so if you want to see big visual effects, CGI, tornadoes, just tornadoing all over the place, and people driving towards them and driving away from them, oh my lord, this film has got you covered. Apart from that, this film doesn't really have that much to offer. I kind of feel like it falls into the same trap the original does, where once you've seen them drive towards and then away from a tornado like 2 or 3 times, it gets towards like the last half an hour and you're like, yeah, I get it. Like, I feel like there's only one trick to play, and the tornado either gets bigger or there's like 2 tornadoes and they combine together to make a bigger tornado. But it's like they did that in the first one. I don't know. It's like the film really only has one card to play, and it's tornado. And so the disaster and the terror and the horror of the tornadoes is all you've really got to play with. So it kind of gets a bit same towards the end. But I feel like the first film suffered from that as well. So, like, I don't know. What are you going to do? It's a film about one thing, and it does that one thing for 2 hours. I think maybe the film should have been maybe 15, 20 minutes shorter. And so by the end of the film, I was a bit like, nah, I'm a little checked out. I'm a little bored of this. The characters are fun, but they're nothing special. They're nothing to write home about. It really is just carried on the shoulders of how much you want to look at Glenn Powell on a cinema screen. To be fair, it is worth the price of admission just to see his very sexy face on a very big screen. So the plot of Twisters is that there is a young, sexy tornado chaser, and she is really horny for tornadoes, but also potentially traumatized by tornadoes because maybe they killed somebody that she loves. Yeah, it's just the same as the first film. There's a sexy lady, and she loves tornadoes despite the fact that tornadoes did her dirty in the past and killed somebody she loves. But she's obsessed, and she's driven to fight, but also look at the tornadoes and be like, that's super sexy and cool. I don't know, there's a weird tonal thing in this film where sometimes the main characters like look at a tornado in the distance, they're like, wow, it's so magical. The wonders of weather. Like at one point, the main character's like mum is like, man, the worse the weather, the more my daughter gets off. And I'm like, I mean, that's kind of weird. Like that tornado killed somebody she loved. It's weird she loves them so much. I mean, it's the same as the first film, but it kind of, I don't know about this one, but maybe it's just because it doesn't have that 90s cheesy charm. It kind of feels a bit more whiplashy and a bit more off this time, where when they're looking up at tornadoes, being like, wow, it's so sexy. I'm so horny for tornadoes. And then 2 minutes later, they're like, I can't believe this tornado killed this town. We should have tried to help this town. Oh, the destruction and terror. And I'm like, this is not really melding and gelling together. It feels like they want to do and be 2 different films where everyone's trying to save towns from tornadoes and they want to try and fight back against the tornado, and they're like, maybe we can use science to punch a tornado in the face and kill it. And then other times they're looking at weather being like, God, this is so sexy. If I could get my genitals into that tornado and rub them together, I would. And it's just like, I don't know if these 2 films are meshing in the way the film thinks they're meshing. This is a weird film. Everyone's so horny for tornadoes. All I'm saying is it feels like it's a bit of a toxic relationship between our main characters and the tornadoes. And I just don't know, because of the way the film presents itself and the way the film plays out. I'm not sure the film intends to be so nuanced. We're like, ooh, it's so complex how the characters love tornadoes one second, but then hate them and fear them the next. It just kind of feels a bit messy and dumb and silly and like inconsistent and not nuanced in that way. But also, as I say this, as I hear the words coming out of my mouth, I'm like, what am I talking about? It's a movie about people who drive cars towards tornadoes and try and punch them in the face with science. It's stupid and dumb. Why am I analyzing this? This is no Casablanca / Citizen Kane, 2 films that I have definitely seen and have opinions about. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. I'm going to ruin the last 2 minutes of this film. So, Glen Powell, sexy lead character, sexy female lead character. Her name's here, maybe, who knows. They are both like, will we, won't we, throughout the whole film. She's like, I'm a country girl who turned into a city girl. He's like, I'm just a country guy. And then he's like, maybe you should learn how to be more like a country guy. And she's like, maybe I was never really a city girl. And maybe I am a country girl. And for the whole film, you're like, when are they going to kiss? You're expecting like a tornado to like be in the background and they kiss before they go and punch the tornado in the face. And they never kiss. And it's kind of really weird. Then there's a moment at the end of the film. Tornadoes have been beaten and destroyed and they punch them in the face and they're going to an airport. And she's like, I'm off back to the city. And she goes to catch a plane. Like in a rom-com where like the hero, the sexy main lead guy is like, oh, dang, I didn't kiss the girl. And she goes into an airport like it's a 90s rom-com. And then because his truck, like to fight the tornadoes, his truck like has drills at the bottom of it. And so it drills holes into the ground. So it locks itself into the ground so it can go into the actual tornado to shoot up fireworks and magical nonsense mumbo jumbo science stuff. So it like has these drills that locks it into the ground. So he's at the airport at the end of this film and he's like, oh dang, I didn't kiss the sexy lady. And she runs off to the airport. And there's a moment where this guy's like, you gotta get going. This is the 5-minute zone for the airport. You gotta get going. And he's like, oh, well, I've gotta get going. Oh, do I kiss the sexy babe? Clicks the button. The drills come down, just destroys concrete, destroys just like the airport's property, just their like car park area, just destroys the ground, locks the car in. He gets out of the car and he's running through the airport and it's like, what movie is this suddenly turned into? This is so weird. And so he's running through the airport, he finds her and he's like, hey, I'm here, it's me, sexy Glen Powell. You're obviously an actress too, but not as famous as Glen Powell, so I don't know your name right now. And they look at each other and they go to kiss, but they still don't kiss. And then there's like a report on like the PA system and they're like, hey, so there's like storms or whatever, so the planes won't be going, there'll be delays. Do you get it? Storms, because the film's about twisters or tornadoes, whatever you want to call them. So the storms, we're linking it back to what the film's about, but that's going to stop the planes leaving. So she can't leave. The lead actress in this film, she can't leave. And then Glen Powell looks at her and he's like, ho, I guess this city girl's not going back to the city too soon. And she's like, maybe I won't go back to the city. And then they look at each other and they're like, and then again they kiss and the film will end. And they don't kiss and they just walk off screen and the film ends. I don't know what happened. Do these people hate each other? Do these actors/actresses hate each other? Why didn't they kiss? It's just weird. It's like it's clearly not platonic. They clearly want to... What was that? What they wanted to do to the twisters, they want to do to each other. But they don't. It's super weird. And I just thought we were maybe, 25 years past people running into the airport, chasing people that they've like left behind in a rom-com. And this film is a big disaster movie. It's just so